Hi, Christina.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. So thank you everyone for joining us today as part of our High Notes live stream, talking about employer branding and what that means for recruitment. So my name is Christina Murray. I am the digital marketing strategist here at Higher Level. And so what that kind of means is I do a lot of our social recruiting, and as that continues to expand and what that means for businesses and for companies, and really just reaching out on a lot of social platforms and a lot of strategy behind that.
And I'm Katie Harrell. I am the recruitment marketing strategist here at Higher Level. What I do on a daily basis is really just work with our recruiters and our teams to use recruitment tools in order to recruit candidates of all calibers. So actively seeking jobs, passive candidates. I really help them maintain their strategy for all different markets. And Christina and I work together on a daily basis in order to make sure that those strategies meet the requirements for our different markets and for our different job opportunities. So.
Yeah, and as we continue to learn that the employment rates are continuing to drop, it's very important to make sure that you have strategy and to make sure that you understand that depending on what you're recruiting for and where you're recruiting for, that looks completely different across the board. So kind of just to give you guys a little bit of an introduction to kind of what is High Notes and how long have we been doing this. We've been doing a webinar series now for a little over 6 years. We actually rebranded that this year. It used to be the Workplace Excellence webinar series. And then we kind of decided to take a little bit of a different spin and call it High Notes. So this is definitely more of a live stream, and kind of the point about it is that we hit all the high notes and kind of skip selling you guys on anything and get straight to the point on tactics to help your business and help you continue to grow and learn as far as what we can provide to you and our services. So Katie, I think I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you so we have a poll to get us started and you can run with it.
All right, so the very first poll that we are going to do today is, we want to know how long does it take for you to fill your open positions on average. So less than 30 days, 30 to 60 days, 60 to 90 days, or 90 days or more. I'll go ahead and give you guys a couple of minutes to answer that question. Let me look here. All right, so at this point in time, what I want to talk about is whether or not you have ever considered if your brand plays a role in the time that it fills, or the time that it takes for you to actually fill your job opportunity. Because this morning, what we want to do is we want to talk about your reputation as an employer. So how your candidates feel about you, what your employees say about you, all of those good things, and how that really impacts your opportunity to hire that top talent for those jobs, and what you can do to maintain the positive and popular employer brand. So right now, at this point, did you know that 96% of job seekers are influenced by reviews that they find online and the ratings that employees are giving you on job sites like Glassdoor and Facebook and all of those things? 69% of those actually will not apply if they don't like what they find, even if they're employed. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look. Looks like everybody has voted. So we've got 77%. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and manage that. All right, so it looks like the results show that the majority of you are saying that it takes 30 to 60 days to fill your job opportunity. And then hardly anybody says 90 days or more. Well, that's good. I'm excited for you for that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I think that's pretty well almost what we see as well. We saying the less than 30 days. I think everybody that is, you know, that would be the goal for everybody. But I do think that with the tight labor market right now, we are seeing that 30 to 60 days as well.
Yeah, and you also have to remember too that that 30 to 60 day mark is pretty average when you're talking about passive candidates that you're seeing these days versus just a ton of people in the job market. We pretty well know that anybody worth hiring is working, you know, like really ultimately like these people with these great skill sets, these, you know, just really able to go to work and be awesome for you, they already have a job.
Exactly. That's why it's super important to recruit those passive candidates and create a strategy that allows you to do that on a daily basis. And we'll talk about those tools and what you can do in order to recruit those passive candidates in a little bit. But what I want to do is I want to continue the conversation about your employer brand and how that does affect your time in recruitment and filling those job orders. So job seekers would rather not work at a job, have a job that and work for a company that has a bad rap. I can't possibly imagine losing 70% of our candidate pool. It would tear my heart out and stomp on it. So that's why we keep our reviews open online. So we open reviews on Glassdoor. We have them on Facebook. You're more familiar with that, Christina. But we highly suggest for you not to turn off your review settings on any of your pages. It shows that, what is it? Was it 69% would still rather see no reviews or would rather see negative reviews versus no reviews. So if you don't have your reviews, they're still probably not going to want to apply to your job.
It's very true. And kind of going into this review conversation, we have another poll that we're going to get to here in a minute. But one thing that I always say I use a really great example of is anytime that you go online to buy a product from, say, Amazon, a lot of times you will find that people have all these great products and you're like, well, I've never bought from this business. I've never bought from this company before, but I think I'm going to love this product. So the first thing that most people do, and I know that this is what I do, is I go immediately to the reviews. I literally just bought a ton of bedroom furniture for my home off of Wayfair. That is the first thing that I did was I went in, I checked all the reviews, and I made sure that that is something that was going to work for me, and that it doesn't have bad reviews. But once again, I think seeing both sides, you know, if you have 100 reviews and a majority are positive, but you're always going to have a few negative reviews. It doesn't matter how great of a business you run. It does not matter the great things that you offer your employees. There's always going to be those bad reviews. So I think ultimately, as long as people are talking about you, and mostly in a positive way, that's really what matters.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I still want to read the negative reviews because different people hold different weight for different items. So for instance, if they say that it was because the bed wasn't tall enough, that's not going to affect me. I'm 5'1". That's all it is. So those negative reviews are just as important as your positive reviews. I mean, you need to let your candidates decipher what they're going to place value on and what they're not going to place value on. And I think we're going to talk about that later and the added value proposition and how, you know, what you're offering to your candidates and what you find important and how those candidates fit into your culture and if they find those same things important. So it's just very important to not steer away or, you know, look negatively towards reviews that aren't in your favor, but at the same point in time, you want to give your employees and your candidates an experience in order to have as many positive reviews as possible. And I think that's the most important thing to remember.
Yeah, because something that's negative to one individual may not actually be negative to another. So I completely agree with that statement, and just keeping in mind that it's, you know, and we're going to talk about that here in just a minute, but the responses and how to handle that, handle negative reviews as well as positive. Yep. So I guess the next thing we want to kind of talk about is just that, which is where do job seekers go to find information about your company? So before we jump into that, Katie, do you want to launch our next poll, which
Yep.
is where do most of your candidates come from?
Yep. So your options are to choose Facebook, Indeed, or a different job board. LinkedIn, do you use a referral program? I know that we have one here and it's hugely successful. Or do you get the majority of your jobs filled through a staffing company?
So some things to kind of think about as you guys are answering this question is that this is the importance of reputation and reviews, is that 75% of job seekers will research your company's reputation before they even apply. So this isn't even talking about what their skill set is or how great of a fit they are for your company. It will be stopped at the door. If they find, if they can't find anything on you or anything about your brand or what you have to offer. And 96% will actually start on your social media pages. So I'm really interested to find out where candidates are coming from.
Yeah, we're going to give them a couple more minutes. I think the important thing to remember here too is that you're going to get a different caliber of candidates from each of these job boards or each of these locations. So I'm really interested to see what everybody has to say. We'll give them
Yeah, I know that we definitely see that. We definitely see different variations of skill sets from different platforms. So it'll be interesting to see that.
Okay, looks like we've got the majority of our attendees voted. So I'm going to go ahead and close this and show you guys the results. All right. Wow. I'm actually really surprised to see that. So almost 90% come from Indeed or a job board, whereas 11% of you are using referral programs. So that's awesome.
That is really cool.
Huh?
I said that's really cool to see referrals because that is something that is majorly skipped over. Just really diving in and learning more about that. That's something that a lot of people are talking about right now, is that programs are being completely missed, which is a great source of candidates. So it's cool to see some individuals getting good people from that.
Exactly. Yeah, referral programs are just being more widely talked about. We just recently did a revamp of ours and we've seen quite a bit of increase in usage of our referral program. So it looks like because of that huge increase, we're actually going to have to, change some other aspects about it too, because it actually works. So I would recommend for anybody on this webinar who does not use a referral program to reach out to us, ask us what our secret sauce is, because we'd like to share that with you. So
yeah, and I'm also very interested to find out that nobody is receiving candidates off social media. So this is something that I highly specialize in as far as employer brand and using our social platforms. And a lot of it is that. A lot of it is just a way to do brand awareness, right? Like that is a huge part of your social media platforms and actively using that. But kind of for what we do, it's a huge part of our recruitment process as well. So that's extremely interesting to me. And I would love for, if anybody is actively using it, posting jobs just even in their feed or, maybe using LinkedIn jobs or anything like that, I would love to just hear your feedback on kind of how you're strategizing with that, and even possibly have a conversation, because that's something that really interests me. But back kind of a little bit, let's kind of go back to the reviews and back to this employer brand that we keep talking about in social media. So obviously Facebook, we do receive reviews on Facebook. We see a lot more of the candidate side and the applicant side than we do of our clients, but we still have clients that get on there and post reviews of us. But one huge tip that we would like to give to you guys today is always respond to your reviews and courteously. Like, don't do them and you're going to receive negative reviews. I think the biggest takeaways are two things. One, you can find gaps in your system. If someone says, hey, this didn't work for me and I don't know why, that kind of just brings you back to the beginning, to the step one, and walking back through that process and finding out, okay, what really happened here and how can we, if something did fall through the cracks, you can make that better. And two, just really encouraging those that have nice and kind things to say about you, continue to encourage that. And that goes back to your referral program. And that goes back to who do you know? You think you love our product and our service. So who do you know that might also need help? And that builds also good rapport for your business and for your company. So once again, and just always making sure you're responding. Don't ever leave anything outstanding. You can absolutely take the conversation offline so that you can walk them through whatever process might have happened. We ultimately don't know. It depends on the situation, but definitely making sure that you are responding to those things.
Yeah. I think one thing that we've learned with Facebook is just the timeliness and the fact that it's at the candidate's convenience. So we're able to offer a good candidate experience in the fact that we're able to answer them in a timely manner. They're not having to pick up the phone and call us. They're not having to do anything of that nature. They're already on Facebook just cruising along, and they see our great opportunities and they automatically recognize that as an opportunity for a career change or any type of employment services that they would need. They know that they can come to us for that. And it doesn't matter if it's 8 o'clock, they get a response from us specifically because it's on Facebook. I think that the different types of campaigns that we're able to run on Facebook also makes it a tool that is super useful to us and our recruitment process. Also because our recruiters are connected to us on Facebook. So they're able to share their story. If they have a particular need that they have for a client, they can go ahead and post that, and it initiates that relationship between the recruiter and the candidate for that particular job from day one. And then at that point in time, that individual knows exactly who they need to talk to, where they're going to get their stuff, submitted to, and who they have to go to for questions, and just maintaining that relationship. So I think it's super important in today's market that we are using social media in order to reach those teeny tiny crevices of really good candidates, because these people are not looking for jobs. They have a great job, and when they come home from work at the end of the day and they've got their dinner dishes done, they're cruising Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So, we need to be, that's kind of a secret sauce for everybody. You just have to find out what your strategy is going to look like through that social media and then use it to the best of your opportunities.
And I think we're all guilty of going home after dinner and scrolling media because it's so handy. And I'm sure some of you might have questions about, well, if someone's responding to me at 8 p.m., you do not have somebody that's consistently monitoring these things. Right. The wonderful thing about technology is automation. So it may be just something very simple. Facebook has advanced so much, and a lot of the social platforms, and the ability to respond to people and actually just have almost like a whole chain reaction of responses. This goes back to chatbots on your site. So it's more about immediate response. What can I help you with? And we all know that in this day and age, people do not necessarily love picking up the phone. They want to feel it out via message, text message, whatever they can do before they actually commit. So that's really helping that case. So, candidates ultimately, inevitably, there's two main things that, prove low ratings or prove a reason why somebody may not want to apply with your company. It's either that they're just not personally invested, so they don't vibe, or they're not in with the company culture, or maybe they don't like the product that you're selling. Maybe I'm not super interested in that. We live in a day and age where people get to make up their mind, and they get to say, hey, I'm going to love this. It's very cultural driven, cultural environment driven. So they either say, hey, I'm going to love this, and this is what I want to invest my time in, or they're just not going to, unfortunately. They're just going to move on to something that maybe interests them a little bit more, or it's back to that bad reputation. and also maybe not responding to those negative reviews. How are you fixing the problem? How do you make this better? So just keeping those two things in mind. Some you can control, some unfortunately you cannot, based off of somebody's just own personal interests.
Right.
So kind of talking about back to not having control. So the one thing that you can control is your employees' time spent at your company while they're there. So if you get something really great in, once again, we live in a time where if someone, wants to go somewhere else because they're like, hey, I've gained really great experience here, but there's a really great opportunity. So one thing you can provide is a good experience while they're working for your company and giving them that employer brand and what we like to talk about as employee advocacy. So what do we provide as a company that makes people want to work here, that makes people interested and keeps them, happy, but also says, to anybody on the outside looking in, hey, I really believe in this program or this program or this program that you offer. This is why I'm interested. So we're going to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was going to say, we have a ton of programs here at Higher Level, and everybody has a different favorite one. So do you want, I was going to ask you if you wanted to go ahead and talk about that. So, awesome.
So I think that one of my, and we can talk about all of them, but as far as my favorite program that we have, there's a couple right now that kind of stand really heavy for me. It's just our higher level difference. It actually encompasses a lot of things, but it's our charitable giving and our volunteer work that we're able to do as a business. So each month we are asked if we want to contribute whatever amount of money that we would like to give back to charities that we choose throughout the year in all of our office locations. So I really love that. And I also really love, we just launched a second chance program, which is just something that I firmly really believe in as far as workforce and as far as giving people second chances. And it's just something that I believe in. So knowing that we back that, and it's just kind of what it's saying is it's a program that's tapping into a workforce that a lot of people overlook due to backgrounds, due to different histories of different individuals. So those are kind of the two things that kind of keep me driven to keep doing what I'm doing, because I love the fact that we get those opportunities to give back.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. So the higher level difference is one of my favorites too, specifically because of the volunteer time off. I do think that it's great that we have a different charity that we give to every single month, and I love that we do that in each of our individual communities. So we have 5 different offices, and each of those offices focuses on a different charity within their community each month. So just to reiterate that, so we really, really, really do find value in investing back into our community and being aware of what those needs are. So volunteer time off, though, is my personal favorite because it does allow us to use work hours as volunteer time. So not only am I giving back to my community, but I'm also learning more about their needs. And I think that it's super important that we're doing that in order to make sure that, our higher level difference campaign in itself is focusing in the right areas for our community. When I first started working with higher level, I was extremely impressed with the number of individuals who actually partake in the volunteer time off. I think that Teresa, our CEO, has just set the bar high and has maintained that standard. And I think that other companies could look to her and use her as an example of possibly where to be in the next couple of years, because it's super impressive.
Yeah, and one more thing that I want to add to this too is, when I say that I believe in the back to the second chance program that we kind of run, I've been kind of involved in different job fairs and things like that where, I am the person that's meeting these individuals. I'm the person that's getting to speak to them. I'm the person that really gets to understand, where they're coming from. And there are alarming statistics as far as how many people in human resources, SHRM did kind of a overall kind of just testing to see that out of so many of their HR managers that they interviewed, there was 80 80+% of them that said that individuals with, a history or a background actually perform better than individuals or equal to individuals that do not. But the unfortunate part about it is there's 70+%, I think it was like 72% of individuals that a year after being incarcerated still are without a job. So this is just something, and this is back to just what you're passionate about and how do you change the norm and how do you talk to other individuals about what this really means to me and what this means to our business. So once again, it's not necessarily what you're getting to take away. Like, it's not something that is actively given to me, but it is absolutely something that I believe in, which encourages me to keep doing what I'm doing every day. So
you're exactly right.
Once again, it's awesome. These programs are great. Also, if you guys ever want to chat, any employer out there that ever wants to chat about the Second Chance program, please reach out to us. We would be more than happy to just talk about what that program really means. So obviously I'm very passionate about it, but but once again,
it just goes back to investing in your community, because these individuals are in our community and they want to help participate too. And so, like you said, this higher level Second Chance program gives them that opportunity to do it. So I'm sure that we're going to have a ton of questions on that, but I do want to talk about High Five program. So do you have a little bit of information on that? Because this is the second step of it. So this is after they become an employee of ours and what we do to help maintain that relationship with them.
Absolutely. So one of the biggest things that we do as far as, internally, we totally believe in giving each other what we call high fives, which is great job, doing whatever it is that you accomplish. But for our external candidates, one thing that we have provided is a Candidate of the Month program called, it's basically the High Five Candidate of the Month. And each month from office location, someone is recognized for their hard work, because once again, we do what we do every single day without these candidates that go to work hard for us. And we want to know what drives them. We want to know, like, why is it that you go to work every day? Like, what is it that benefits you, so that we can kind of highlight that. And that goes back to, we share that on social media, just to say thank you. So
right. And we recognize our clients too, because they're providing our candidates with a great work environment. And I think that it's important that A and B actually match. And so it's just recognizing both of them and the great work that they're doing together. So awesome. Good.
Absolutely. And a few other things just to touch on before we move on. We do offer leadership programs through our company. So everybody that works within Higher Level has the opportunity to kind of go through a leadership program. It's a year long. It just kind of gives you all of the ability to learn leadership skills. What's it mean to be a leader? How do you better advance your career? We're really driven in that aspect. We do Higher Level Huddle, which is literally just a quick 15-minute.
That's one of my favorites.
Positivity session. There's so much negativity, just in life in general anymore. I feel like a lot of people want to highlight the negative. So that's really a great way to highlight the positive. And really talking about, how do we make it better internally with exit interviews, strategic sessions. And what that just means is we're touching base with everyone that works here at least once a month with our strategics to find out how do we make things better. And then if someone does move on to a different opportunity, what can we work on? And also, what did you like the most about working here? So those are just some basic programs that you can implement as far as employee advocacy goes.
Right. And I think to add to that is those programs that you just spoke of, they not only allow you to develop professionally, but also personally. Like when we started the Higher Level Huddle, I think that it really strengthened our team, and it became less like a team and more like a family. So we were much more invested in each other. So I think that those methods are important for your internal culture. So
absolutely.
Let's go ahead and launch another poll. Let's find out what the attendees' biggest recruitment challenge is. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So what is your biggest recruitment challenge? And your options are finding the right skill sets, which is very relevant today. Having enough applicants. Are you experiencing a lot of turnover? Are the resources and time to screen just taking too long and costing too much money? Or is it persuading those passive candidates? I think we've experienced a little bit of all of this.
Yeah, I think so.
So, okay, I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes in order to answer that. But in the meantime, I want to talk about why these things are relevant and why we are asking this. Why are we having this recruitment challenge? And I think we hit the nail on the head a little bit early in the webinar by talking about the low unemployment rate. So the workforce just is not there, and we've mentioned it a couple times, but the passive candidates situation is proving to be difficult on a daily basis. So we have to find different strategies and different methods in order to find these candidates and to reach out to them and start that conversation to where they actually respond. And we do that through something that we call value proposition. And so we're going to talk about that. But in the meantime, we also want to talk about the skills gap. So I think that something had happened with our generations where, you know, we all wanted to go to college and none of us actually, you know, went into those skilled labor markets such as welding and becoming an electrician and plumbers and all of that good stuff. So a lot of times we do have an influx of good candidates and they've got the right desire and want to work, but they're missing those skills. So they're missing that just one little piece of what our client is needing in their experience and in their skills. So as of right now, going back to generations, we actually have 5 generations in the workforce. And, you know, I think that the later generations are definitely missing those skills, but we are finding ways to close those gaps. And, well, let's go ahead and look to see what you guys have to say. Yep, that's what I figured you guys would say, is finding the right skill set. So that is hard. We've noticed that as well. But
Yeah,
we can do that through persuading these passive candidates as well. So I'm surprised that you guys haven't experienced that. But don't fear, because 64% of all employers are actually experiencing this exact thing. So they're saying that applicants with the skills that they need is very challenging. And the good news is that the apprenticeships that are happening with the younger generations are taking place in order to fill that gap. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed, and we're going to make sure and influence our community and our kids in order to make sure that that gap closes a lot sooner than we need it to. So, Christina, do you have anything?
Yeah, so it's really interesting when we talk about finding the right skill sets as well, because that, you know, and I also look at, you know, resources and time to screen was on there. Skill sets are very difficult. And back to kind of what Katie was saying about missing that gap in kind of like that light industrial, super skilled workforce kind of doesn't, they exist, but they're definitely working. There's a couple things. One thing being really talking about you have a career doing this. So I think sometimes there's a little bit of a misunderstanding with, you know, if you work in a light industrial or manufacturing setting, that sometimes these candidates don't feel like they have a career path. And that is so correct. We know this, we work with tons of people in that manufacturing environment, and there's absolutely room for growth. So I think, once again, just talking about that, and also not being completely afraid to maybe spend a little bit more time or with your training, because sometimes you can get a really good candidate that is like, I'm super eager, I'm willing, I just don't exactly have this much experience doing this, but I've touched it a little bit. Really kind of just saying to dive into that a little bit.
Right. And that training is becoming a part of a benefit that employers should be offering to candidates. So candidates are looking for that. And if they're not finding it, then they'll go somewhere else to find it. So I think that it's important to make sure that you're communicating what that career path looks like in the beginning stages. That should be a value that you're adding to your candidate's experience from day one.
Yeah, because there might, and that's the thing, when you have a skills gap like that, you will find people that want to work, that are going to be great workers. They just may not have exactly that skill set you're looking for right then, but they are more than willing to train. So always keep that in mind when you're talking about skills differences and that gap. So
Exactly.
2 cents on that.
Yeah, and that is the perfect lead into our next poll, which is what is your biggest strength in what you offer to your candidate? So I'm going to go ahead and launch that and give you guys a couple minutes. So what we're wanting to find out here is what are you is it compensation? Is it benefits and perks? Are you talking about that career development and your growth with the candidate from day one? Maybe it's work-life balance and employee wellness. Maybe that's what you focus on. Or is it your company mission and purpose? So what is it that is your biggest strength? So what are your candidates most looking for? So I'll give you a couple minutes to answer this, or once we see that the majority of you have actually participated. And then directly after, we'll go ahead and review the results, but then we're going to go straight into a slide deck that shows you how to create your best added value proposition.
And that's just back to your buy-in and how
Yeah.
to get individuals that want to come to work for you. And also, because I did see on the previous poll, there was a little bit of turnover. So really keeping them invested.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this and share the results with you. It looks like we're a little bit split. So it looks like benefits, perks, career growth, or career development and growth, company mission and purpose are all at 30%. So I'm happy to see that none of you guys have thought that compensation, because that is just an archaic model of recruitment. So I'm extremely excited to provide you with the feedback of you're good to go. So, benefits and perks. So I think that in itself kind of goes back to what we were talking about with that specific, that specific training. So if you were talking about career development and growth from day one, and they are talking and letting you know, like, I want a career path, I want to be able to, receive this training, so on and so forth, that absolutely can be a benefit that you are offering. Company mission and purpose, I think all three of those things feed into each other, and I think they're equally important. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and hide this and launch our deck. Give me just 1 second so I can share my screen and get out of this. All right, here we go. All right, so we've got, all right, so how to create an employee value proposition. So you've heard me say added value proposition a couple times, and we just want to go through and talk about what that is, how you can create that yourself, and we will save some time for questions at the end. Let me go ahead and move this little thing over here too. All right, so EVPs of yesterday and EVPs of tomorrow. So something about employee value propositions is that they've recently been revolutionized. So we have seen them recently go from, this is what we will give you in order to come to work here, and turned into, all right, this is the deal, where you as an employee have options. So you get to tell us what you're looking for, and we'll let you know how we can provide that to you.
And I think it's great because within the poll that you guys just answered, a majority of you are tapping into this, which is that, that company mission, but also the benefits and the perks, and in that career development and that drive to give your employees what they're looking for. So that's definitely a good sign.
Yeah. All right. So the next slides, what we're going to talk about are the next steps on how to create a winning employee value proposition. So step one is to find out what current employees like. So what aspects of your culture are you able to offer, and where do they see that value? So ask your current employees, why do you like to work here and what do you enjoy? What can we do better? Really? I mean, what do you like? Let us know so we can share that with other potential employees.
Absolutely. And, back to kind of some of those photos, it's all about what do we instill here at our company that makes people enjoy working here and keep buying in. And obviously we didn't talk about this earlier, but we have a baby at work program.
I participated in that. Yeah. It was life-changing for me.
She just graduated, unfortunately, so she's no longer here. Like Grayson went to daycare, but it's fantastic also for, all of us that were working in this office to be around her. She was a joy.
Yes. Yeah. So people probably think Babies at Work program is like super distracting, and it's actually good for everybody. It's good for the new mom. It's good for the office environment. I experienced a huge benefit from it. And I know that others who actually don't even have kids, but still work in the office where they're bringing babies to work are experiencing that same benefit. So
definitely.
Step 2 is going to be find out why leaving employees leave. So don't be afraid to ask. Christina, earlier you mentioned here at Higher Level, we do exit interviews, and we find that information to be just as important as incoming interviews. So
yeah.
What's the biggest reason you leave your current employer? Go ahead and ask ask your employees, what are we doing that, could potentially help you find your way out the door, and what can we do to fix that? I think that having the courage to ask that takes a lot.
Yeah, and that also directly impacts your turnover rate. I mean, that is something when you can figure out why maybe someone is leaving, it could be something that is a completely simple or easy fix. And you would never know the answer to that without just simply asking. So.
Yes, exactly. All right, step 3 is to define characteristics of ideal employees. So you want to make sure that your employees are representative of your brand, but you also want to be careful not to exclude certain demographics. So, I mean, there's just so much out there that proves that the concept of diversity and inclusion is the #1 key of a successful work environment, as well as a successful and desired work culture. So, I think that here at Higher Level, we've done a fantastic job of doing that, not only for our internal opportunities, but also for our external opportunities. So that's something that we make sure that our clients are very well aware of from the get-go. And I'm really proud to work for a company that does that. So take a step back and ask yourself, what are the characteristics of your ideal employee, and make sure that you are including all demographics and you are being completely inclusive of everyone, because everybody has something to offer.
And I think that's the most important part, is the inclusion aspect, because diversity and hiring a diverse workforce is definitely one step of that, but the inclusion part is so important because of the wide range of ideas and options to really grow your business based off of just that inclusion piece.
Absolutely. You definitely don't want to end up with groupthink. You'll be stuck forever.
Right, exactly.
All right, step 4 is to define the unique elements of your company. So this pyramid here is just kind of showing you the guts of how to create an employee value proposition. So you can't have one without the other. And then you'll find the definitions on the left-hand side to be a little bit different than what you're seeing in the pyramid. However, if you take a look, the rewards, so the think benefits, perks, and promotions, that actually touches on multiple, I guess what you would call it's a pyramid, but kind of like, it's the structure of your value proposition. So you're thinking benefits, perks, and promotions, but in all reality, that's going to be careers, well-being, and benefits. Could even include purpose. So each one of these definitions on the left-hand side includes multiple pieces of your structure. All right, step 5 is to write it. So if you write it, you better own up to it, right? So you want to own your own impact. So your written employee value proposition should answer the following question. Why would the people we need want to join our organization, perform at their best, and stay with us over choosing a different employer? So your employee value proposition should actually be able to answer this question on each point. So if it doesn't, then start back at step 1 and see what you're missing.
And I think remembering too that it isn't always the obvious things that individuals and candidates want to work for you. It's
You need to do your research
aspects. It's what is it that you offer, once again, is different than everyone else offers. And that's kind of why you see that unique portion at the top of that pyramid, because it's not always the most obvious thing that you think about and make individuals want to work for your company. So keep that in mind.
Yep. All right, so now we want to talk about the MVPs and the EVPs, and I don't think that anybody's going to be surprised when they see these logos here. So these are the most valuable players of the employee value propositions. Who has not heard about the extremely cool employee engagement that Google has to offer? Absolutely nobody. I mean, they've even made movies over it. So,
there's a book.
There's a book. Exactly. Exactly. So here it just gives you a little bit of insight as to what their employee value propositions are. You'll see here that Google actually has 2. So one's their short one, one's their long one, but ultimately it does, it touches on the same thing. So do cool things that matter, but at the same time, they're creating access to information and building products that improve people's lives. So, they're doing cool things with their desk and their chairs and all of that great thing, all those fun things, but ultimately,
I think it's important to remember too, though, that with Google, like everybody thinks that that's the whole reason why everybody wants to work for Google is the cool atmosphere and the cool cultural environment. But so much of how they build their work culture is really the impact that they're making. And that's that unique piece of the puzzle that people don't immediately look at because it's not seen in the forefront, but it's a huge part of why people work there.
Yeah. I like to say I would go for the snacks that they have to offer, but I really like how they map a career path from day one. So, I mean, from the day that you have your first interview, even if you're interviewing for an internship, I mean, they literally tell you exactly where you could go. And, they're creating new positions every day. So I think it's super cool. Google is gold, guys.
Google is gold.
All right, what to share about your company. So top 5 things job seekers want to know before applying for your company. So projects and products that they might actually work on is our largest one there. So yeah, I mean, that's just kind of a given. I think anytime that anybody comes in for an interview, they want to know exactly what their job duties are going to be. And you should be listing that in the job description from the get-go so they can come in and ask active questions. They want to know what they're going to do before they apply. They don't want to waste their time applying for a position that's not going to meet their needs. So at this, I kind of think about how many of you talk about your career development in your recruitment process. And, 30% of you had selected that as your answer for your poll. But I'm going to challenge the other 70% of you to go ahead and, work that into your strategy as well. So all 5 of these kind of lead directly into that. All right, and then one last thought, we kind of touched on this earlier, but if you write it, don't fail to deliver on it. So if you do fail to deliver on it, that is where you're going to find your turnover and your negative online reviews. So if you're experiencing both of those, then, take a step back and reevaluate your employee value proposition and make sure that you're delivering on what you say that you're going to do. So.
Yeah, and one thing too about those negative online reviews is that it doesn't just stop with the person that reads the online reviews or that handles the online reviews. It absolutely is something that needs to be discussed as far as maybe it's an operational issue that needs to be discussed with the rest of the team. I think one thing that really happens is we address the issue, we talk one individual or one person that runs a department and says, hey, we need to work on this, but ultimately company-wide, some of those issues that do arise need to be addressed with everyone. So don't forget that. You want to make sure that when someone is writing a review, you can improve. That's the best part. I mean, everybody's seen negative reviews, but then sometimes you'll see it where someone comes back and says something great about, like, thank you so much, you solved my problem, this is great. That is just as important as any positive review you're going to get.
Yep, I agree. All right, so now we can open the webinar for any questions that you guys might have.
And kind of as a wrap up, as you guys are asking questions, I did not mention this earlier, but we are SHRM accredited as well. So anybody that's sitting in on this webinar, it is worth 1 professional development credit, and you will receive that in 24 hours. I did fail to mention that earlier, so just wanted to tell you.
And I failed to mention, any questions that you have, you can, on the right-hand side of your go-to panel, you can go ahead and type in those questions there, and we will answer them as they come in.
And also feel free, guys, if you want to send us questions directly as well, absolutely feel free to do so.
Yep. Nothing.
Do we have any questions as of yet? I don't even know how to.
It's fun. We never get to talk about what we do, Christina.
I know. There's a lot that goes into it. Just recruitment structure in general. It's become definitely a challenge just across the board for everyone. So it's fun to talk about. This is what we do all day. So it's always nice to share some knowledge.
Yeah, I know. And the fun thing what I like about what we do is that it's constantly changing. It's really is an evolution of things. And, one thing that may work for first quarter does not work for the last 3. So.
And what worked last week may not work this week. So.
Exactly.
Change pretty drastically depending on.
Exactly. So, all right. So it looks like we have a question. It says, generally speaking, how do you find qualified candidates in the trades? So we actually have a couple methods with this specifically. Because we're in 5 different markets, we actually, I'm not able to see the full question. Because we are in 5 different markets, we have created and then maintained really good relationships with our junior colleges as well as with our universities. We advertise through them as well as doing visits. As Christina had mentioned earlier, she goes to a lot of career fairs, a lot of job fairs that are offered within our communities. Also, I cannot say it enough, but you have to reach out to those passive candidates. And I know not a lot of people would qualify a CDL driver as a skilled driver, but let me tell you something, that is one of the hardest positions that you will ever have to fill a day in your life. We really hit the ball out of the park with that by sourcing those passive candidates. We also do a lot of advertisements on social media for those positions. But really it's maintaining those relationships with those community colleges, with those trade schools, as well as with those resources within our community.
Yeah, and I want to reiterate too, really fast, that, it's back to where would you find the type of individual that you are looking for. So something, we think sometimes that, we can go to one of our resources that we have as far as job boards are concerned and think that it's going to work for us. But ultimately, maybe those people are more on Facebook because that's just where they're going to be found. So just making sure that you kind of idealize in your head, where can I actually find a candidate that would fit this? But also remembering that if they are working and it is a super skilled position you are looking for, you are going to have to be a little bit competitive. Okay, you can't, that's one huge thing that I always push is making sure that if they come back and say, hey, like, I have this great skill set, but I'm already getting offered XYZ, making sure that you don't completely throw that to the wayside, because it is a tough market. It is very competitive.
Mm-hmm. And that just touches base on our recruitment tools. Internally, Christina had mentioned something about the second chance program. So we obviously do use that in order to help find candidates there. But also we have a lot of veterans that have those skills that are transferable to meet the skills that are required by our client. And I think that falls into that second chance program as well.
Yeah.
So not necessarily having a bad background or things of that nature, but it's a second chance at a different career path. And that's what we need to like focus on when we think about what that program means, and using those resources and those individuals who are coming to us seeking service and putting them in, using those skills and their history and transferring it to those skilled positions. So I think that we do a really good job of that.
And training, and those training programs that we were talking about earlier, sometimes you find a really great candidate that meets, 75, 80% of your criteria, but maybe they need a little bit more help in one aspect of that job. Please, that's one thing I would really encourage, is looking at that training too, and that's kind of what we do. We find the best candidate to try to match as closely as possible to what our clients are looking for, but it is a tough market, like we've said over and over, and sometimes that training piece goes a long way.
All right, so it looks like we have a couple more questions. That was a great question, so thank you for asking.
Thank you.
All right, so the next question is, many of our candidates don't show up for the interview. What do you suggest we do to get them in the door? Oh boy. I could talk about this all day. So this is something that we have recently actually feel like we've remedied. But again, everything that we do does evolutionize and does change. So what may be working now doesn't necessarily work for quarters 3 and 4. However, I formerly worked in higher education and in recruitment. And when we recruited via text. So that was something that we have recently invested in at higher level. And our first touch to all of our candidates, specifically for that light industrial line of business, because they are actually working in that unemployment rate with them is so small at this point, that we decided that first touch of communication would be via text for multiple reasons. A, because it's more convenient for them, and we want to make sure that we're communicating with them at their convenience. If we're communicating with them at their convenience, then they're more opt to answer us, and they're more able to answer us. No one wants to pick up the phone anymore, especially from a number that they don't recognize. So we're texting them, and we're offering them specific job opportunities, and it's working. If we just flat out ask them, we have this opportunity, are you interested? And it's a simple yes or no. And that yes or no turns into an interview that we get them on the phone, we get them scheduled for an interview, and they're showing up. Not only are we scheduling that interview via text, but we're also reminding them via text. So it's allowing the candidate that if something happens, if they do get that flat tire, if something does end up happening, they can reschedule that interview via text. So not only is it more convenient for them, but it's actually more efficient for our recruiters. So it's been a whirlwind of getting candidates in our door, as well as qualified to go to the next step of the recruiting process. And I highly suggest it to anybody. So if anybody has any questions about who has the best texting platform, I'm happy to help.
And also, this is a super fun part of what we get to do every single day, and kind of what gives that edge is we get to sit down and we say, okay, we're seeing this as an issue. We know everybody else is facing the same issues. How do we solve the problem? And that's what we do on a daily basis of there's gaps obviously in recruitment right now, and how do we solve that problem? So the cool thing is there's been so many things that have changed since January in what we do and how we begin conversations with our recruiters and with our branch managers. So that's really nice. It's just having that strategy and that team ability to kind of get to the root of some of these issues.
Yeah. Yep. And because of that, we've been able to integrate text into other campaigns and other strategies as well. And I think that has helped as well. So now we're just setting the expectation of what our candidates and our employees can expect from us. And I think that's important too in that aspect. So I hope that answers your question. The next one is, how do you handle a conflicting culture in a firm? I'm in a company who is older, and we are trying to develop a good culture for both new incoming employees as well as those who have been here for many years. Well, as we mentioned earlier, currently there are 5 generations that are in the workforce. So it's going back to finding out what your current employees like. So that means a little bit of everything. Here we have round tables. Oh, you're welcome. Here we have round tables, and that's when our director, like our director level of management, is meeting with other individuals and finding out that step 1 of that employee value proposition. So exactly what are we doing that you like? What are we doing that you don't like? What can we improve on? Things of that nature. You have to have that open dialogue. You have to have that open door to where a representative of all of those different individuals within your firm are coming to you and they're able to offer you that information. I think you have to be flexible, and I do think that at one point in time within higher level we did experience this, and that's exactly when the roundtable started, as well as those exit interviews. It's just going back to that step 1 and step 2 of that employee value proposition. The other thing I want to add is, we mentioned earlier the higher level huddle. It really is, we get together every morning for 30 minutes, and we do things as a team. So it's not team building activities every day. Sometimes we are reading a book and it's kind of like a book club. Other times we are doing little team building activities, but really it gives us the opportunity to bond as individuals instead of being separated into departments. And so it allows us to develop and maintain relationships that with our coworkers that are outside of the professional standard, if that makes any sense. I hope that helps. But I think that if you really do go back to our slide deck, which we can send out to all of our participants, by the way, if you go back to that slide deck and you start asking yourself and your current employees those questions that we have listed there in order to create that value proposition, I think that you'll find some answers that you can address that would, fix this conflict in the culture. But this is something that everybody is going to experience. This isn't going to be the first time that you experience it either. So I think that knowing those steps on how to fix it is just as important as fixing it.
And that's also hiring for culture as well. You know what I mean? That goes back to your forefronts of not what's currently happening internally, but hiring for culture. What does that on the front end look like as far as the individuals that you are bringing into your workforce or your business?
Yep, I agree. That's it. That's all the questions. Anything else?
Thanks for the questions, guys. Those were really great. And if you think of anything else, please feel free to reach out. We'd be more than happy to help.
I hope we were able to do our due diligence and give you answers that are helpful. So, like I said, we will be sending out that slide deck as well. So feel free to respond back with any questions that you may have, or if you think of something later or want some more information on any of the topics or the programs or anything of that you might want more information on, we'd be happy to help.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.